Now we talk recruiting, LSU football. At the center of it is Shea Dixon. Go 247. My man has been busy the last couple of weeks here. There is news still continuing to come out of the program, and there is a tons to get to. His recruiting National Signing Day is less than a week away, and official visits coming in. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see all of y'all.
Merry Christmas. Love the kicks. Biggest piece of news that you've heard from LSU football over the last 72 hours. What's the biggest thing that moved you since Monday?
The Frank Wilson being hired news would sit at number one. I mean, it takes you back to the 2010 to 2016 range of when people were covering recruiting. That was sort of like the heyday of the modern era after they had won a couple of national championships. They were getting into a third back in 2011, rolling, recruiting Louisiana guys. And look, I thought whenever Brian Kelly was hired, if you're 30-plus years as a head coach, but you've been in the Midwest and the Northeast that whole time, and now you're going into the SEC, and not just that, but then you're taking over at LSU, and you've got a base like Louisiana, we immediately thought, okay, he's going to need to retain this person. He's going to need to go out and get some Louisiana recruiters, whether, I mean, they threw around Hankton at Georgia or whomever it was, right? Terry Joseph's name was thrown around. And then you come up with Frank Wilson. That's about as big it was almost like I wasn't even thinking of that as an option.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of like Brian Kelly.
I don't know if he could have done any better.
Right. It's the biggest name you could have gone and gotten. And for me, what it does is, for so long when Les was the head coach, Frank ran recruiting.
Yeah.
Frank sort of ran a lot of inner workings of the program. They've got that side all figured out now. Brian Kelly's a solid head coach. He knows how to run the building. You got a guy like Frank running recruiting. You would imagine you're going to be recruiting at a pretty high clip here. I know he's not given much time right now. He's like, look, I'm out on the road for a couple of days here. They sign next week.
The old school leather jacket.
That's just, someone was like, where did he get that? And Emily, my wife, was like, that was about a 2010 edition of LSU.
That looks like
go to the closet.
Patrick Peterson's recruiting visit.
Dust this whole thing off. I'm back, baby.
100%. Like, I guarantee he opened that closet that flipped on the switch that hadn't been opened in about 5 years, and there was all the
right.
It's Batman.
Old school.
It's Batman going back to the Batcave.
Yeah, right.
I think Stringfellow put an end to a number of those outfits, and here they are.
String was cringing looking at him in a couple of pictures.
Does he
have enough time to make up?
Well, I know he was down in
ground
New
lost?
Orleans all day yesterday, and he got a sense that they were, Aaron Anderson had flipped to Bama a month and a half ago or whatever, and he met with him. But I think even then it's like, okay, well, Bama's done so much work on him up to here. I'm a bit behind. Your man Shaz Preston, he was in home with last night, and the Preston family. Shaz's older brother and Frank's son are friends, so they go back, and he's going to get in there and shoot a shot, But right now, if you're pushed up against signing day like this, right when you're hired, you've only really got like one bullet. It's not like you've got a full chamber here.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time. And then Shaz is going to Bama this weekend. So I think you got to almost try to convince him not to sign anywhere next week and give him some time. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But give this new staff, certainly Frank, a year on the recruiting trail. I'm sure things are going to be a bit different.
I was going to say, what are some of the buzz that you're hearing of Brian Kelly since he's been announced at LSU and the impact that they can make, not only in this short term, but I guess overall on the recruiting trail?
I mean, I talked to Coach Sim over at Catholic, and we talked to a couple of. I mean, he went by and saw Trev Falk, went by STM. Let's see, LCA. They were at Lake Charles College Prep. I know Frank was. Madison Prep here in town, Catholic here in town. Kelly's actually speaking at the Louisiana High School Coaches Association clinic today, I think at 10:30 over in New Orleans, so he'll be able to get in front of a lot of coaches then. But from talking to, and I thought too that at Lake Charles College Prep, their AD had given Sonny some quotes, and he said, look, and Sim said a bit of the same, is we won't go into everything he talked about, but it was not that this is a rebuild, but we're about to turn things around and do things different than they've done them before. And I know that they've talked about, look, it's tough when you have a Kevin Falk, when you've got a Corey Raymond, when you've got Mickey Joseph going to Nebraska. Kelly, I think, really understands, okay, those guys are loved around here. But with change, it's not easy, right? And I think he sees that. But I think Sim brought up a good quote of, He was like, look, I'm a little old high school ball coach in my first year, but things were rough for me at first. This summer, I was part of that transition when they were having to give up state titles, and Catholic goes off and plays a gauntlet of a schedule that nobody expected them to get past. They go 11, 12, and 1. They beat Jesuit. They win state. So he sort of said, hey, look, I could sense that Brian Kelly knew it was going to get rough before it got easier, but that, hey, he was dialed in, buckled in, and that he felt like he had a really good plan in place of, this is how I'm going to build my staff. This is what we're going to do. This is the kind of kids we're going to recruit. And then we'll see, look, judge them by wins and losses. That's how ultimately every coach is judged.
This class of 22, we've talked about it for so long. What's the true outlook on how they can finish here?
Well, I think they're doing it the right way. You got to immediately worry about your base. You need to get the committed kids that you've felt good about locked in. A lot of them, all of them almost, will be in this weekend, beginning today through Sunday. It's the final weekend for visits, so they'll have close to 20 official visitors, and that'll be between your commitments, some in-state guys. I know Kendrick Law will be there. Quincy Wiggins will be there.
Really? That's huge,
yeah,
right?
A number of uncommitted in-state kids that are big, that are planning on signing next week. And you do that. You focus on the guys that are here. You focus on the guys that for sure want to sign next week. They become priority. Then from there, you take it into January, and you've got more time. You've got 4 weeks of in-home visits you can do. You've got Brian Kelly, you can go in-home with all these guys. You've got 4 weekends of official visits that you've got at your disposal. So immediately right now, it's focusing on the guys that sign next week and focusing on the commits. Now, when you get into January, you can build out the class a little more. I think after the bowl game, too, you've got a sense of here's who's coming back, in terms of players on roster. Here's who's going to go pro. Here's who's going to enter the portal. Here's who we signed in December. Then you can move forward, really prioritizing how do we want to finish out the high school crop in February. And maybe most importantly, and this will be interesting to see, because at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly, they were really only taking portal guys that were grad transfers. And academic hurdles are much different at Notre Dame than they are down here. And he's talked about that. He said, we're going to have to go heavy in the portal. And I think that'll be, we saw them offer an offensive lineman out of FIU this week that was in the portal. He's got a bunch of big offers now. But I think we'll get a sense of what positions they feel like, whoa, that needs some real attention, because come January and into the postseason, I think they'll be pretty heavy in the portal.
How many recruits do you anticipate signing next week, and then how many do you anticipate waiting until February?
Right. So they're down to 11 commits right now, and I think they're not even in the top 20, maybe right at 25 in the ranking. Now you can move up in a hurry when you start knocking off some dominoes, but 11, I'd expect those guys would probably all sign. Then you add, let's just say they get a Kendrick Law, Quincy, someone like that. You're adding a few more guys that can go early. I would cap it out at around 15. I bet that they sign 12, 13, 14 guys next week. Leaves you about 10 or so spots open for February. And then, again, you could fill those with high school guys. You can add some transfers that way. But you can still ultimately, beyond that 25, get up to as many as 7 transfers. So I think it'll be a lighter signing day in December than we're used to, just because of the circumstances. But then come February, it'll be a way more exciting February than we're used to, because we've gotten into that groove right under O. And I guess really the early signing period is O as head coach that whole time since it's been in existence. They would try to sign everyone then. You just want it done. And there was no major staff shakeup. Trevante Citizen decommitted. He could still be in play. He's not going to sign early, so he'll wait till February. Frank and them went over and saw him. But if you're saying you're going after Citizen, you probably want one more back. It doesn't seem like Le'Veon Moss over to Strum is going to wind up at LSU. So then you look around the state. I think A.J. Allen's a big one. I think Sampson over at Dutchtown, who broke all of Eddie Lacy's records, is a really good player. He's committed to Tennessee. So I think they'll look around the state and make evals this next week, but more so January, where
You need some water, bro?
I got a
Sprite.
I got a Sprite. Hold on. It's early out here.
Water break.
A relief med break?
I need to go to Relief Med.
It'll give you coffee.
Two great minds think
Right.
alike.
It gives you coffee. It'll fix one as well.
That's right.
I would think January is when you watch guys like that. And if they sign next week, it's just sort of tough luck on LSU's end. But evals, new offers. Look, last night, Landon Ibieta on the North Shore.
Love that.
He got an offer last night.
I love
Where
that.
is he from?
He's from
Mandeville.
Mandeville on the North Shore.
Stud.
Is he?
Really good,
Stud.
kind of slot type receiver. but they don't have a receiver committed right now. I mean, when DeCold left the class, it's sort of a mutual parting of ways, I guess you would say. They don't have a single receiver. Aaron Anderson had flipped to Bama.
Oh, my gosh.
Shaz is still
Oh, my
uncommitted. Jake Johnson obviously was a tight end, but he's out now. So in terms of a receiver, they don't have one. So I really love that offer.
I do too. Yeah.
He's been committed to Miami. They've got staff shakeup. So, and that offer came out from Polian, who was the newest hire they had, but I think he had recruited him at Notre Dame and said, "Let's make a move."
What are you hearing about Kayshawn?
I mean, there's rumblings about everything. If I'm LSU and Mickey's gone now, Corey's gone, I'm Brian Kelly. I'm telling Frank Wilson,
put him in the
get
front
off
seat.
the road.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Let him ride with you in the car.
Yeah. You're now your most important recruit is sitting here on campus. He's over there in the room. I haven't heard anything that like today something would pop, but I know that they'll probably have to double down, and that's the same with all these guys. I mean, you're going to have to re-recruit the roster when your position coach leaves, your head coach leaves. Moffitt's gone. I mean, there's so much turnover in there that these kids say, hey, look, it doesn't look the same to me as it did. And you've got to remember, Butte signed on to a national championship team that's gone 10-10 or 11-11 or whatever. You know, there's some of these kids have a taste of, I've got 1 year left, man. I'm not trying to be, are we rebuilding here? Man, that ain't for me. I need to go out there and try to win. I'm not saying Butte's saying that, but that's sort of what you're having a battle right now.
I said that in the first hour. I mean, you forget he was recruited in 2019.
Right.
When you're looking at Joe Brady's offense and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson set, SEC records, and then you get here and you feel like you're a babysitter, for 3 years. So there is definitely something like that. How about these new coaches? How have you heard anything on how they fit in? Moreover, let's start with the coaches that are leaving: Raymond, Joseph, Falk, even Moffitt. You talk about those four. I mean, those were almost kind of the brand of LSU football the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, and then if you think of the brand of LSU football past couple decades plus, the Moffitts, Insminger, Sam Nader before this year stepped down. So, I mean, the entire kind of food chain of LSU football has been shaken up right now. And again, we'll see by wins and losses if they're making all the right moves or not. You can't judge that in the offseason, but it's obviously real that changes are coming. It's wild to look at a staff that doesn't have Insminger and Raymond. I mean, Insminger was the longest tenured one for 10-plus years. Then you've got Raymond, who just hit 10 years. So that shakes things up. It'll be weird not seeing – it'll be even more weird seeing Raymond in blue and orange on the other sideline when you're playing.
No doubt.
I think that the Falk news, Falk's had such a rough year. And you feel for him, his family. Mickey going back to Nebraska, that wasn't a major shock. They've been trying to push for Mickey for, it seemed, a few off seasons now, and we're finally able to get that done. The window had opened enough with the coaching change. Look, they're all really good coaches, really good dudes that treated everybody around here with respect. The kids all love them. So Brian Kelly's got a task at hand here. He's going to have to get these kids to buy in. I think having a familiar face like Frank around will help. We'll see what the rest of the hires look like. I loved the idea of keeping Brad Davis. I think that can keep some continuity, especially on the O-line. And as he's an interim head coach, a lot of the kids on the team will get to know him a bit better. As Liam Shanahan said, it's the best thing ever. Now you can go yell at everybody else.
Right.
Spread that love out a little bit, Coach.
Tom Granning says, so who is coaching the bowl? Do they have a clear idea?
Yeah, Brad Davis.
No, but I mean, like around the building, I mean, what do you expect in this bowl game?
Nussmeyer to burn a red shirt.
Who's going to play quarterback?
Lloyd.
Hey, give me a couple snaps, guys.
Let Brucey play.
Matt O'Dowd. I don't know.
I want John Trey.
Some John Trey. I'm assuming that
John Trey wants John Trey.
Yeah.
He's advocating
he's
for
all
himself
in.
to get out there too. It'd be awesome
he's
to
all
see.
in.
I would assume Nuss would be playing the bowl game. I mean,
Me too.
red shirts are especially for a quarterback. Red shirts aren't like a thing that really happened that much anymore. What sucks for him is he could have just been playing before and not done the whole I'm trying to hold on to it thing, and then I'll let Max have the reins, and then he's gone, and it's damn, I got one game left and I've got to play it now. But good chance for him to showcase his skills, and I'm curious too. And kind of going off on a tangent here, but the bowl game, I would imagine, and I asked Brad Davis that, are you going to have all these, is Pete's calling plays in the bowl game? Is Durante Jones your D coordinator? And he said, look, almost that's a Brian Kelly type question almost, but I've got a plan in place. If someone's not here, an analyst's moving up. We're not missing a beat. We're just going to keep moving forward. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But as of right now, they'll start practices tomorrow. All those guys are still on staff, so kind of just got to keep preparing.
You have an expected landing spot for Max Johnson?
No, I saw South Carolina was getting some buzz. I think naturally people just presumed Florida State would be in it because their dad went there. I saw Tennessee was getting a little buzz.
Does it matter where Jake's going?
I think they're going somewhere together.
So it's going to be...
I would imagine that's what they're doing.
Florida
for sure.
State.
Yeah,
First game of the year next year for LSU. That would be very interesting.
Is it?
Oh, I forgot
Is it?
about
Wow,
that.
in the dome.
In the dome.
Wow, I did not know that.
Golly.
Wow,
Max,
what a
no.
What a nugget by you right there,
I love it.
Lloyd.
That's what happens when
Sweet
the sound
drop
goes
in.
out.
Sweet drop in right there.
It's wild, man, this LSU program right now, covering it over the last couple of years.
This is the biggest changes we've ever covered since
Yeah.
we've been on the beat.
For sure.
You know, even when Les got here, there was some staff changes, but not to this degree. You know, Moffitt, there were a lot of people who stayed around. This is sort of like a massive change. We'll see how it pans out. But look, this is what Woodward did. He brought him here to right the ship in his mind. He wants to instill a new culture. He's paying him a lot of money to do it.
Yep.
See how it goes.
What is the latest on Jacoby Matthews?
Signing in February.
Oh, that's good for LSU.
It is very good for LSU. Gives him some time.
Wow, that is great news.
He plays for a
LSU.
state title.
Sounds
How
like
about
Brian
old Brian
Kelly.
Kelly
Kelly
in
from
my
Texas?
family,
That was
boy.
a Texas,
Been this
a
guy.
Texas accent right there.
I don't even know what happened.
I mean,
Wow, you lucked out.
What's
you think
in
they're
that Sprite, dude?
Yeah.
You think they're piling on Kelly on that? Is it me?
I think it was
I don't
anything.
hear it,
Oh, you got to hear it.
but I hear
You
it.
hear it.
But I
I
don't
hear a
well,
difference.
hear it.
I hear a difference. I said it was just because he was
Well,
trying
is
to
it just
get with the
family?
inflection and voice.
Family.
Shea just did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little slip.
I
Just do
think.
it.
Well, I could hear it, but then I was like, "That's not how anyone in Louisiana
Right.
talks."
Yeah,
so, like, if
right.
he was trying to fake the Louisiana funk, he's
Right.
got a long way to.
I
He was
agree.
getting down to like South Ohio at that point. That wasn't anything I'd ever heard.
I didn't relate at all.
You got to go over to the. You
My
got to go.
stars, it is hot in the state of southern Louisiana.
Yeah.
My God.
Now,
It's like, bro, okay, Brian.
If the man walked out with a new Iberia haircut and was out there
right.
yapping it up, that'd be one thing. But I think they're piling on. It's like a Will Wade thing.
Yeah. Shea Dixon is here talking recruiting with us. Quincy Wiggins.
He'll be there this weekend, and he's still looking at announcing and signing next week, and that's a big thing. I know Billy Napier and them were trying to get him to go over there this weekend, but he's buckled in.
Hey,
Kelly went and saw him on Thursday.
get out of here, Billy.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
Kelly went and saw him on Thursday, so I think they'll wrap up Quincy Wiggins. That'll be a big one.
Wow, you think?
Yeah, would
You
quell
think
a
that-
lot of people.
I like the old adage of believe what they do, not necessarily what they say. And if you're spending your last weekend before signing day hanging out
Says a
with
lot.
Wow.
15, 16 LSU
Okay.
kids
Says a
or
lot.
commits,
I watched Emory Jones play last weekend for the third time this year.
that boy.
Every single time I watched him, he got better. Like, every time I watched him, and not only that, he was the best player on the field every time, but, like, he looks as if, like, he is very well refined as an offensive lineman. I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm looking at when I can say that. Like, I don't know what makes a great but he just looks like he...
Brad Davis ain't bringing you on as an analyst anytime
No,
soon.
no, they're not asking me for recommendations. But, I mean, he just looks as if he is
Yeah, he's-
very well skilled as a senior in high school.
And you've seen his basketball stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, for a kid that's 330 plus, I mean, he's nimble on his feet. Plays a lot of tackle at Catholic High.
What does
but-
he project as?
A
Guard,
guard,
huh?
yeah.
Guard.
I mean,
He'll
he
be a
looks
guard.
like a professional guard.
Yeah,
he
he's
almost
a-
looks like Trey Turner.
Yes.
he like his build reminds me of Trey Turner and his athleticism. I mean, he number 92 for Jesuit is having nightmares about Emory Jones. I mean, it was one of those things like in the second quarter where Emory Jones was pile driving him into the turf. Where 91 was like trying to fight him to get off of him, like get the fuck off of me, man! Like leave me alone. You know what
Stop
I mean?
picking
Like
on
just
me.
leave me alone, bro. Like just, I mean, he was moving him like he was on skates everywhere, and just kind of putting him where. And then when he wanted, like at the whistle, he just put him on the ground, and I mean, it was an ass kick.
Just bullying him.
He got his ass kicked for 3 hours. He just got
Every
his
play.
ass whipped by Emory Jones.
Yeah, he.
And
he's-
and you can't fault the kid. You know what I mean? Like it was.
I got to go to chemistry.
It was, yeah, exactly.
He's got to go into LSU.
And
it was
I
just
know
a
that
long
Brian
night.
Kelly told them this week when they met that he was like, look, I just started a true freshman at tackle at Notre Dame. Like, I'm not scared to do it. If you can come in and be ready, you'll be out there. I think he's a candidate for early playing time. It's funny, sort of, I guess, like your top linemen signees in terms of rating, obviously, would be Emory and Will Campbell. And they are the two, like, y'all have had Campbell on the phone before here,
Yeah.
so you know how he is.
Dude's
Country as could be.
Yeah, right.
But him and Emory are like the nicest kids. I mean, just give you the shirt off their back, anything. Then you put them on the field, and the coaches are like, bro, you got to, like, snap out of it here. Like, you're about to kill somebody out
Will
here.
Campbell on a football field, bro.
He ain't nice.
He's scary.
He's not
Like,
nice
Man,
out
we
there.
can have a pretty young line.
Yeah.
Like pretty
2 years from
good,
now.
a really good line. I mean, but if they're ready, like
But I'm saying, you'll go
Yeah.
through the growing pains,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
2 years from now, when you walk into a starting SEC school with Emory Jones, Will Campbell, Walker Howard as your three offensive centerpieces, and then you've possibly got, you know, a couple of these wide receivers and running backs in tow. I mean, it won't take long. If you got Trevante Citizen out there, you got Jack Besh, you got Neighbors. I mean, it shouldn't take that long to get it right from LSU standpoint. Do you anticipate that? I mean, even as much as he knows he's got to rehaul it.
I mean, I think there's what do we call it? Not a rebuild, maybe a rehaul. I'm not sure.
A reload.
Or like an overhaul, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a reconstruction type deal.
I think it will take a couple of years to get Brian Kelly's imprint on what he wants in terms of the standard, whether that's across the board, academics, community, football field. I mean,
Family.
he's talked about that, is that if you're doing everything right, the byproduct of all that is success. You'll win a lot of games. Now, you've got to be able to fall in line. You've got to be able to do all these different things, and I think it'll take a bit to instill that, but raw talent-wise, they've got players now. They're short at some spots. I don't think this is next year. I think you could still look out there and say, damn, they're hurting at X, Y, and Z. You can try to fix it in the portal all you want, but it doesn't matter. It's, you know, doesn't 100% mean that it's going to work out immediately for you. So I would not be surprised if they lost some games next year that you'd be like, they should win that game. But I think they'll get into a groove and start clicking.
Kelvin Banks decommitted from Oregon.
Yeah.
Good news for LSU?
Good news for anyone that's not Oregon. I mean, try to get back in there. And I know they have. They've been reaching out and all that. So
what
we'll
about
see.
the cornerback in Houston? That we
Denver
just-
Harris.
Denver Harris.
Did you hear Tack Miner?
Oh, no, what'd he say?
We had him on the
Today?
other day. We had him on
Was
Two-
this
2 days
before or
ago.
after Corey's
Wednesday.
news?
it was the day of Corey's news. It was the morning of Corey's news.
Okay.
And they actually had an official set up.
Correct.
LSU has an in-home set up with them this weekend. LSU's going in-home with them. And Tack did call me after the Corey news like,
Oh.
man, what the fuck, man? What is going on over there?
I thought they had a really good
Sounded
shot
like
at
he was the
quietly
leader.
pulling that one off.
Me
And
too.
I don't know if they still could, but
Yeah.
I think that Corey had that one sort of in his back pocket almost.
We
It was
had the
real
kid's
quiet.
Dad recruiting for LSU.
Right. And I think a lot of people didn't know that.
No.
That was really only being
Well, he
talked
told
about
the-
here on this show.
He told the story of Jimbo Fisher going in his house, and Jimbo pulls up, and he's got the LSU flag waving outside his house, and he walks in, and Tack's got all of his jerseys, framed on the wall, and Jimbo's
You
like,
got to be kidding
God
me.
damn, who
Yeah.
lives here?
Whose
And he's
house am I
like,
in?
what's up, Coach Tack Miner? He's like, Tack Miner?
God damn.
He's like, pack up, man. It's over. Let's get the hell out of here. I mean, it was a great story of Jimbo going in there and
That's
figuring
really
out
funny.
that Denver Harris is Tack Miner's stepson.
Oh,
But
man.
I'm with you. Like, talking to Tack the last couple of weeks, it seems like LSU had done an incredible
Yeah.
job, kind of like under the radar.
It was real under the radar, which is always kind of how Corey worked, which was don't put it out there too much.
Yeah.
But we're in
Yeah.
a good
Just
spot.
shock
type
'em on
thing.
signing day.
Right. I know it kind of Bama. It was set up to get a couple other corners, and he was in the mix with them. So it almost come down to I think it was like A&M, LSU maybe, or I can't remember if Texas was still in the mix, but like every team that got cut, all of a sudden LSU still sitting there. But for that, the Corey news could not have come at a worse time.
Yeah.
Considering you're a
Is he
week out from
signing
signing
early?
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah. He's playing for a state title this week against the number one wideout in Texas, who's an Ohio State commit. So
Okay.
Tack was telling us on Saturday. So it's a big, big week
So they've been
around
talking
their
shit to
house.
each
Yeah,
other.
they've been going back and forth a little bit on
Yeah.
social media, and it's gonna be a big game for both of them.
Shea, do you think that has the state of Louisiana ever felt more open in recruiting than it does right now? With just the people that have left Louisiana, you have Billy Napier going to Florida. He knows how to recruit Louisiana. Corey Raymond leaves Baton Rouge to join him in Florida. He has inroads in Baton Rouge, obviously. The big thing was to put the fence around the state. Does it feel like it's more open for poaching than any other time that you've been around?
I think I wouldn't shortchange those guys. Now, I'd also say a lot of Corey's great when it gets into New Iberia and all that, but like Corey would do a lot of damage in Florida.
Yeah. Right.
Like I think he's going to wreck shop for them in Florida because he's now in his backyard down there where he knows so many coaches down there, and that's where he was trying to go get DBs all the time. So I'm interested to see how much he comes back. You know that Jabbar Jalouk and Napier and all those guys will come over here and recruit, but it is it'll take at Florida some real effort. I'll give you this: the last out-of-state 5-star, I think they had signed 2 5-stars in the past 5 years alone, and they were both from Florida. 2 guys that didn't even ultimately pan out. It was 2015 or 14 was the last time Florida signed an out-of-state 5-star.
Wow. Who was it?
Tease Tabor in Washington, who also flamed out. So
Tease Tabor.
they're going to if they're going to go kind of flexing their muscles outside the state of Florida, it's going to take some effort. Florida's just sucked at recruiting for a minute now.
Wow.
Where
That's Mullen. That's all Mullen.
even with, and then before that McElwain, I mean, even with FSU down, Miami down, they just weren't. That's what had Florida fans. That's why they're rolling through coaches. They're furious because it was, this is our time. We could own the state, and it was just kept coming up snake ass for them. But Lloyd, I think to answer the question about it, the Frank hire throws a wrench in that, I think, because you know that Frank knows, all these guys think they're going to come in here and get these guys. All right, let's see. I mean, what makes him so good is he takes all that personally, and then he's going to be up all night working everybody he's ever known to make sure the kids aren't leaving the state. So I think it will be interesting to see because there will be competition. And look, Bam and Pete Golding. Pete Golding has recruited the state like a champ. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, he is a beast on the recruiting trail.
Defensive coordinator?
I don't know if there was, but it seemed like when they made it to the playoffs that it was sort of like, okay, now you'd have to wait till January, and do they announce someone before that or what? So I guess you monitor it.
I'm going back and forth right now with Keishon Butte. We are setting up an interview at some point. He is studying for a final that he's taken in an hour and says later this evening we will have
you're texting him.
an interview. I am.
Distracting him.
If he doesn't pass, get eligible for this final.
Fuck that exam. Just come to the UDL now and fuck the Tide.
Thank
Send.
you. Side. Side.
All right. Anything else you want to wrap up? What are we missing recruiting?
This weekend.
So what is your
big visitor
schedule?
weekend.
Yeah, what's your schedule like the next 5 days?
Just playing on my phone, waiting for news to come in, tracking it down.
Where's Trevante Citizen this weekend?
I don't think anywhere. I'm looking at the list right now. Not at LSU, but I don't think anywhere because he's not signing until February. So he's going to hold off. That'll
we
be
all
good
go
for
to
LSU.
Walker Howard?
I think so. He is on this list, right?
Yeah.
That's a Mikey question. What's going on? Lafayette never turns on LSU. People need to remember, when was the last Lafayette guy that left football, high-level football player that didn't play at LSU?
Golly, man, I can't even think of one.
That's a very good point. That whole area down there, really.
Yeah, New Iberia, all the little, kind of the whole Acadiana area.
Honestly, I feel like the guys that go out other schools that are from the south, Acadiana area,
right.
They weren't very highly they were from a small school that they didn't really have too much hype, but everybody that played against them knew they were going to be really good. They just didn't really. They're at some small obscure school that nobody really.
Right.
They didn't play against anybody, and they go out there and just kind of thrive. There's a lot of good athletes down there.
Yeah, I think he'll be in. Remember, his best friend is Jack Besh.
Yeah.
Jack Besh and the words transfer portal will never be entered in the same sentence. I mean, this dude's probably out getting more at LSU across his back at the moment. I mean, he is all in. So I think Walker wants to link back up with him. And look, with Max gone, they're down to Nuss, and then you'll sign Walker. 2 scholarship quarterbacks is still not enough. I'm not surprised that they're going to look for someone in the portal that's like a backup or at least can build some depth for him.
What do you know about Mason Taylor, South Florida? Jason Taylor's son signed as a tight end. So now he becomes kind of a commodity in this class, right? I mean, he was kind of an ancillary piece to Jake Johnson. but now he's the only tight end in the
But he's a
group.
4-star too. He's a pretty
He's a pretty good player.
rated.
At the same time,
he had
Aquinas,
he had
they
a
pump
good
out
senior
players.
year. He's on the list for this weekend.
Okay.
I'd heard he was going to try to stop in at Bama. I don't know if he is or isn't, but you're right. With Jake Johnson gone, think about it. Jack Besh is a wide receiver. Like,
Yeah,
you don't need to
absolutely.
be playing
Sure,
him at tight end
absolutely,
anymore. Like,
man.
don't do that.
The most out of position
So,
player in football, all levels.
You've got Jack Mashburn, who was a walk-on, and in terms of scholarships, you've got Cole Taylor, who I think may have been just banged up or just wasn't playing after Mashburn kind of got in there. But that's your tight end scholarship list right there is Cole Taylor. If I'm Mason Taylor and Jake Johnson's gone, I'm like,
I'm in.
with signing day this week,
like,
when can I?
Can I get there today?
Because he can come in and immediately be in the 2 deep. I mean, in theory, right? In terms of scholarship guys.
For whatever reason, it's always looked like Harold Perkins has loved LSU throughout
No
this
doubt.
entire process.
You know his uncle Alvin, right?
No.
Oh man, they're from New Orleans.
Okay.
So they were a Katrina family that ended up in Houston.
Okay.
But Uncle Alvin has been in LSU's corner. He's very active on Twitter. He takes Harold everywhere.